Hello. I am Irene Pugliese. I'm the Manager of Wellness Services. Welcome to Don't Stress the Test. If you would like to turn your camera and mics on, you're welcome to. If you feel more comfortable keeping them off, that is fine as well too. And I am recording this just so that we can share it with some other people who weren't able to attend today. So this is going to be not too much. Sorry, okay. I'm not very good with chat. So just so you know, it sometimes takes me a bit to find it. I'm going to be doing this session. It's going to take about 30-40 minutes, so it won't be the full hour. And I'm hoping to do a lot of actual interactive pieces. So I will be going through some different exercises so that we can actually try some of the techniques that I'm talking about as we talk about. This is a session that I run oftentimes around midterm and final time, because I get a lot of people who come into my office who have studied for their exam, feel really confident walking in, and they sit down, they get the exam paper, and all of a sudden they blank out. They forget everything they studied, they have a hard time getting back on track, and then they don't do as well as they'd hoped or as well as they thought they would given the amount of studying that they did. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens that causes exam anxiety, and also some strategies and techniques to prepare for it on the psychological end of things. So I wanted to start with a brief exercise. This is called a 3-minute breathing space. And it is, oops, sorry. It is a way of kind of taking a step back, gathering our attention and focusing on the present moment. A lot of times when we start to panic or feel overwhelmed, it's because our brains are kind of going back into the past and thinking of all the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, thinking about regrets, mistakes, past bad things that have happened, or our brains are moving into the future and actually thinking about all the bad things that might happen. And we're spending very little time in the present moment, which is where we actually can affect some change. So the 3-minute breathing space is a really good strategy to use. I encourage people to use it before they start writing their exam, maybe while they're waiting to write their exam, or as a break halfway through the exam, or at any time they begin to feel a bit panicky or anxious. So I'm actually going to go through the 3-minute breathing space so you can experience it and see what it's like. So we're going to start by deliberately adopting an erect, dignified posture, feet flat on the ground. If possible, close your eyes. If that does not feel comfortable, just focus them softly to a spot on the wall or the floor. Now I'm going to take about 1 minute to guide you through each of the 3 following steps. Step 1 is becoming aware. Here, bring your awareness to your inner experience. Ask yourself, what is my experience right now? What thoughts are going through my mind? As best you can, acknowledge thoughts as mental events, perhaps putting them into words. Ask yourself, what feelings are here? Turn toward any sense of emotional discomfort or unpleasant feelings, acknowledging their presence. Ask yourself, what body sensations are here right now? Perhaps quickly scan your body to pick up any sensations of tightness or bracing. Step 2 is gathering. Here, redirect your attention to focus on the physical sensations of the breath breathing itself. Move in close to the sense of the breath in the abdomen, feeling the sensations of the abdominal wall expanding as the breath comes in and falling back as the breath goes out. Follow your breath all the way in and all the way out, using the breathing to anchor yourself in the present. If your mind wanders away at any time, which it most likely will, just notice this and then gently bring your attention back to the breath. Step 3 is expanding. Here, expand the field of your awareness so you're around your breathing so that it includes a sense of your body as a whole, your posture, and facial expression. If you become aware of any sensations of discomfort, tension, or resistance, take your awareness there by breathing into them on the in-breath, then breathe out from those sensations, softening and opening on the out-breath. And as best you can, bring this expanded awareness to the next moments of your day. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes, bringing this exercise to a close. Okay. So, any thoughts on that? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Excellent. Okay. So again, this can be a really good strategy in the moment when we're actually feeling stressed or overwhelmed. It can also be a good preventive measure. So the more you practice it, the better you get at actually staying present and the more effective it becomes. So I always talk about all of these strategies that we discuss for exam anxiety or test anxiety. They work in the moment, but they're the most effective if we're actually using them as we prepare for stressful or anxiety-provoking situations. So, wanted to talk a little bit about good versus bad stress. It is, again, this fine balance. We do want to feel a little bit stressed out because if we're not feeling stress at all, we kind of get apathetic, we maybe don't care, we're not paying attention. That's not going to help us perform very well on a test or an exam. However, if we get too stressed out, we kind of go into that panic mode, we start freaking out, we can't really think, we can't problem solve, and we're actually not going to do very well either. So there's kind of this sweet spot for stress, which is like the optimal level of stress that we want to work toward. So this is where we're actually going to be our most effective. We're going to be a little bit uncomfortable, so we're going to be paying attention and trying, but it's manageable. So it doesn't feel like it's completely overwhelming us or like we can't think properly or anything like that. So again, when we're thinking about stress, it's not that we want to get rid of all stress. We just want to get our stress under control so that it's motivating and we're getting all the benefits of stress without getting any of the drawbacks. So what is happening when we have that, oh my goodness, blank out moment during an exam or a stressful situation? Basically, we are going into fight, flight, or freeze. Okay, so what happens is when our brains perceive a threat, the prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of our brain, which is in charge of thinking, logic, rational thought, problem solving, evaluation, that part of our brain shuts down. And the part that's really firing is our amygdala. And our amygdala is our panic button. So this is a part of the brain that lets our bodies know there's an emergency, we need to prepare to survive. So our body goes into fight or flight mode. That means our breathing speeds up, our heart rate speeds up, our blood starts to flow faster, our pupils dilate, our muscles tense, everything prepares to survive this threat, which works really well if the threat we're trying to survive is something we need to run away from, like a wild animal, or we need to jump out of the way of an oncoming car, then it's really important that our bodies can respond that way. But when our brains are reacting that way to something like an exam, it's really difficult because the one thing we need in order to perform well is logic, rational thought, problem solving skills. But that part of our brain is inaccessible while our bodies are sending off this panic response. And I think that a lot of times people try to think their way out of that situation. And again, it's very difficult to do that because our brains are not functioning properly at that moment. So instead, it's really important to put the focus on our physical response and to calm our nervous system down, calm our bodies down, so that the front part of our brain can kick back in and we can begin to think clearly again. So how do we do that? There are several different strategies we can use to do that. We can prepare. Again, the more confident and prepared we feel moving into an exam, the more calm we are. We can practice grounding. We can practice abdominal breathing. We're going to do some of those exercises coming up. We can try a body scan or a muscle relaxation. Again, recognizing that when we're under stress or we're panicking, our muscles tend to be very tight. So even as you sit down for your exam, checking in with yourself, am I clenching my fists? Am I clenching my jaw? Are my shoulders kind of up around my ears? And how do I kind of consciously take an effort to relax those body muscles? A really interesting fact, eat something. When we go into panic mode, our digestive system shuts down. Basically, our bodies feel like, well, we don't need to be digesting anything because we need to put all our energy into fight or flight. So if we eat something even like a cough drop or a gum, something that's going to stimulate that digestive response, it actually sends a signal to our brain letting it know, well, if you're eating something, you're digesting, you can't be panicking. So it can kind of trick the body into moving down from that panic mode a little bit. So the next exercise I want to do is a couple of different breathing exercises. So again, these can be really good in the moment. I always say if all else fails, do some breathing exercises. There's two different ones that we can practice. One of them is called belly breath or yoga breath. So if you put one hand on your chest and one on your stomach, and you take a deep breath in, you want the hand that's on your stomach to be moving. And sometimes it actually takes a few practice breaths to get that rhythm going, because we're very used to breathing, very shallow breathing in our chests. And again, when we are in panic mode, we tend to go into that kind of hyperventilation breath. So if you want to try that now, we'll just do a couple of deep breaths and see if you can get that breath down into your abdomen. And again, I usually recommend taking 2 or 3 minutes and just focusing on getting those deep breaths in. Another way that we can practice breathing to slow our heart rate down is square breathing. And this is a way of pairing our breath with counting so that we actually extend our inhalation and exhalation. And so we would breathe in for a count of 4, we pause for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, pause for a count of 4, and continue that cycle until we've noticed that our heart rate has slowed down. So I'm going to walk through 2 cycles of this if you want to breathe along with me. So we're going to inhale for 2, 3, 4, pause 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, pause 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, pause 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, pause 2, 3, 4, and inhale. And you can continue this cycle as long as it takes in order to recognize that your heart rate has slowed down and that you're feeling more relaxed and in control. If 4 seems challenging, you can definitely move down to a 2 or 3. If 4 seems really easy, bump it up to a 5 or 6. Thank you for the thumbs up. So definitely this is something that can be used in the moment, but again, the more we practice it, the more effective it becomes. So usually I will tell people, as you're preparing for exams and you're doing your studying, work in some breaks to do a breathing exercise. So maybe every time that you finish a chapter or you finish a chunk of studying, give yourself a piece of time where you're actually focusing on that psychological preparation, so that you're practicing it on an ongoing basis. So again, the prevention, early intervention part. Preparing for and managing stress begins long before test day. So again, these exercises are going to be effective in the moment, but they're going to be even more effective if you've actually incorporated them into your daily life. So you know how to do some deep breathing. You're pretty easily able to move into a square breathing. You're incorporating that into your study routines. That's going to be really, really helpful. If you're looking for some things to make it easier to practice these skills daily, there are quite a few apps that are available for free. Some of the ones we often recommend, Stop, Breathe, Think, Insight Timer, and Calm. And they actually will give you different exercises for different lengths of time. So if you only have a couple of minutes, you can let the app know that, and it will give you a short kind of meditation or breath work. If you have a longer period of time, or you're maybe trying to fall asleep, it might give you a longer half-hour type of thing. Another one that's used a lot, I hear good things about, is Headspace. If you would like to try meditation, or maybe you already meditate and want to do that in a more group environment, we do offer meditation twice a week. You can check our calendar of events. That's guided by one of our counselors. And we also are going to be running an introduction to meditation through an email-based program. So if you're interested in that, again, check out our calendar of events, and you can learn a bit more about meditation and how to incorporate it in your life. Another piece that's really important when you're thinking about stress, thinking about preparing for exams, and I think something that's often forgotten, is how important it is to take care of ourselves. I think a lot of times when we get stressed, we tend to stop doing the things that keep us really well. So for example, we maybe stop exercising because we feel like we don't have time to go to the gym. Or maybe we feel like it's too difficult to cook meals, so we're just gonna eat, pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Maybe we feel like, well, I don't have time to sleep because I really need to get through this work and I need to study. And I think that oftentimes those are the things that are so important when we're preparing for a test, right? So not underestimating how important and how helpful it can be to continue to make time for eating regular meals, for exercising, for sleeping. I think sometimes people think that, well, this is just a waste of time. I need to focus on studying. I really encourage people to kind of change that narrative and really look at all these things as investments in being a successful student. If you invest time in taking good care of yourself, you are going to be more successful in your studies. For example, a big thing that people will sometimes do is they'll pull an all-nighter. I need to study, I've got way too much to do, I'm going to stay up all night and study. Lots and lots of research actually shows that you are going to do better by studying a little bit less and getting a full night's sleep than you are by studying more and being sleep deprived. Because our brains need sleep to process information, to integrate information. So really thinking about, how do I make sure I still have time in my life for these really important self-care things? Avoiding or limiting caffeine. So you definitely don't want to develop a caffeine habit during exam time. If you usually have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, you don't want to have 5 right before an exam. Caffeine definitely mimics the anxious response. So if you're already feeling a little bit nervous or keyed up, drinking caffeine is just going to exacerbate that and make it much bigger. And finally, make sure you're taking some breaks, right? Our brains are not meant to intensely focus for long, long periods of time. Typically, our brains can handle about 90 minutes of focus. So think about, how do I break my studying up into that kind of chunk, right? I study maybe by chapter or by 90-minute chunks. And then what do I do to have a bit of a breather? It's not that you need to take hours, but how do you maybe take 20 minutes or even 5 minutes, if that's all you feel you can afford, to get away from the books, get a drink of water, walk around your office or your study space, do something that's going to get you out of the study mode and then go back to it. It's going to be much more helpful. It's going to allow us to sustain our attention and focus And it's going to make it less daunting if we know that we have regular breaks built in. Another thing to think about is kind of avoiding thinking traps. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few slides. Again, the way we talk to ourselves about exams or about worries has a big impact on how overwhelming those worries become. Again, I know like I sound like a broken record, but the more we practice these strategies, the more effective they become. So definitely implement them as you study, not just the day of the exam. Because again, we can be lowering our just day-to-day stress and anxiety by practicing all of these skills. Okay, so common thinking traps, and there are more, but these are some of the ones that I find are the most popular, especially when we're talking about academic worry. So fortune telling, we say to ourselves, I know I'm gonna mess up, I'm never gonna pass. So we assume we already know the future. We assume that it's already happened, which again causes lots of panic, because if we know we're gonna fail, it makes perfect sense to be panicked. So again, we can kind of shift that a little bit to, you know, I'm worried I might fail, but I've done lots of study, so we'll have to see, right? We have to remind ourselves that we can't know the future 100%. All or none thinking is another one. So we say to ourselves, if I don't do well, then I'm totally going to fail. Or we say to ourselves, you know, I only studied 4 hours and I had planned 6 hours. There's no way I can pass, right? So it's very black and white. And this is important to kind of recognize and label and look at, you know, we could say, well, you know, I only studied 4 hours, but I studied really well for those 4 hours. I have 5 out of the 6 chunks pretty solid in my brain, right? So really calling out our tendency to think in all or none. Catastrophizing, this is like that snowball. You know, if I fail this quiz, I'm going to get kicked out of the program, and then I'm going to get kicked out of my house, and then I'm going to end up homeless, and I'll never get a job. So it's kind of the way that that anxiety takes this, you know, one thing and turns it into our whole life kind of imploding or collapsing. So again, reminding ourselves, if I fail this quiz, and like that's the worst case scenario, this is the first quiz, it's only worth 20%. I have 3 other quizzes to make up the mark. So we need to kind of rein in that snowball to make sure we keep it realistic rather than turning it into this huge thing. And then finally, overgeneralization. I always fail tests. I never get good marks. The telltale sign that we're overgeneralizing is we're using words like always, never, right? So again, even shifting to I have failed some tests in the past, or you know, I sometimes get good marks, right? It's very rare that something is actually always and never. So really, again, when we notice this way of thinking, how do we label it and try to come to a more realistic way of seeing things? Okay, so this is another exercise we're going to do. This is a grounding technique. And again, this is a way of bringing ourselves to the present moment. It works really well if we're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, stressed. It works really well in that moment if our minds are racing and we can't even catch a thought because everything's just jumbled up. Doing a grounding exercise can be really helpful. So this one is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. And so I'm going to take you through it. And basically, I'm going to ask you as we go through this to name to yourself what I ask you. So we're going to start by taking a deep breath. And then I want you to name 5 things that you can hear around you right now. Name 4 things you can see around you right now. Name 3 things you can touch around you right now. And you might actually want to reach out and touch it and see how it feels, the texture, the temperature. Name 2 things you can smell right now. And 1 thing you can taste right now. So what does the inside of your mouth taste like? And then another deep breath. And you can continue this cycle, just naming different things as you go around. Again, until you begin to feel more settled and you notice that your body has kind of got out of that fight or flight response. The other really nice thing about this is that you can do it very subtly. So you can do this while you're sitting in an exam, and no one necessarily knows what you're doing, but it can have a really calming impact on our bodies and our minds. Again, I encourage people to try it and experiment with it before you actually need it. Get comfortable with it. This is going to be a little bit of an experiment because I'm going to try to send this out in the chat because I want you guys to be able to, no, it's not going to work. Okay, I'm going to do it afterwards. So I wanted to give you a few other really great resources. One is check out our calendar of events. If you want to try yoga, meditation, if you're interested in other topics for workshops, we have everything posted on our calendar of events at the Student Health and Wellness website. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is there's a really great booklet, which is done by anxietycanada.com called the Test Anxiety Booklet. It covers a lot of the stuff we've covered in the workshop today, but it also includes a bit more information, and it can be a really good reference. So definitely check that out. If you just look up Test Anxiety Booklet by anxietycanada.com, it's a PDF that can be super useful. And then if you're interested in the more academic side of exam preparation, so study skills and breaking things into chunks and how to study effectively, all of that kind of stuff, definitely check out the Student Success Center's resource library. And I did happen to notice they're actually doing a workshop on study skills and exam preparation at 2 o'clock today. So if you are interested in that side of it, you could probably join that session as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to email these resources with the link to the recorded session. That's how I'll kind of get around that. Okay, so this is the last exercise I want to kind of get you guys to go through today. This is a visualization. So oftentimes when we think about, if we get anxious about exams and we start to think about them, we tend to, again, go into the future and think about all the bad things that might happen. So we start picturing ourselves blanking out. We start picturing ourselves, you know, dropping our pencil and not being able to find it. You know, we have all these things, all these ideas about what's going to go wrong. The idea behind visualization is that we actually take some time to really think about all the things that could go right, so that we actually put our minds in a more positive framework and we think about, you know, how might it go well? What would it feel like to be really successful? What would it feel like to feel calm when I went to write my exam? Now, this is something that does need a bit of practice. So if you're wanting to use visualization in order to decrease exam anxiety, it's something you need to practice on a pretty regular basis. But I've worked with lots of students who have done that and really do know that it makes a big difference because they begin to feel a lot calmer. So I'm going to do a visualization with you so that you can kind of see what that's like. And you can find lots of visualizations just by searching on Google, and it would actually guide you through this process on a regular basis. So we're going to begin again by getting comfortable, sitting upright, feet flat on the ground. If you feel comfortable, gently close your eyes. First, scan your body for any areas of tension or a sense of holding on. Scan your forehead, jaw, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, stomach, legs, and feet. If you do feel tension in any parts of your body, try to send your breath to that area and then breathe out the tension. Focus on the gentle inhalation and exhalation of your breath. In and out. If any worries or unwanted images come into your mind during this exercise, just let them be, and then gently bring your attention back to your breath. Now imagine you are sitting down to study for a test. You really want to do well. Feel the desire to show all that you know. See yourself reviewing the material and remembering all the important information. Now imagine yourself on the day of the test. You're feeling some anticipation and you want to get started. You want to show what you know. Though you are a bit nervous, you're also feeling pretty confident. You imagine walking into the classroom calmly and sitting down. Now imagine that you are sitting in your chair. You notice what's going on around you. You hear other students shuffling in their seats and putting papers and bags away. You remind yourself that you don't need to think about anyone else right now. You return your attention to yourself. You feel the chair under you and the hard desk. You feel the pen in your hand. You see the test being handed out. You feel a hint of the old anxiety rising, which you expect. So you say to yourself, it's just my anxiety. I can deal with it. It's not going to stop me from doing well. Perhaps you do some square breathing or grounding. Now the test is in front of you on the desk. Imagine scanning over the entire test calmly and confidently. You discover that you already know most of the answers and you feel prepared. You start to organize your time. You say to yourself, I will continue to focus on one thing at a time and not let my anxiety take over. I've taken plenty of tests before, and there is no reason I can't do this today. This is my chance to show what I know. Take a deep, slow breath and let it all out. Feel your body relax. In this state of calm, you are able to concentrate on the test and see things clearly. Now you begin writing the answers one by one. You are able to remember what you studied. The answers and ideas are pouring onto the page with ease. Some of the questions are straightforward, and you're able to answer them quickly. Some questions are more challenging, and you take your time to gather your thoughts. You try your best and find ways to show what you know. Now you are finished, and you hand in your test. You feel relieved and proud. You say to yourself, I got through it. I didn't let my anxiety take over. I wrote it out, and I showed what I know. Now enjoy the feeling of being done. Now that you have finished this test preparation visualization, you are feeling more prepared to take your next test. You are confident that you will be able to manage your anxiety and focus on the test. You feel calm and settled and ready to focus. Now slowly begin to return your awareness to the present. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. Feel your body waking up. Gently open your eyes and bring yourself back to the present moment. You are ready to return to your day feeling calm and focused. Okay. So that is a visualization practice. And again, this is something that people can use. Oftentimes people will do it like once a day leading up to an exam, so that it gives our brains a chance to focus on the way that things could go well and on getting used to connecting an exam experience with feeling calm. So even thinking about if you know where you're going to be writing your exam, fill that in the visualization. Like make sure you picture yourself in the environment you're going to be writing an exam. You know, if you're going to be using a particular pencil or a computer, again, put all those things into your visualization to help it become more and more realistic. Okay, so that is kind of the end of the practical pieces. And I just wanted to review some of the supports available if you are looking for more support. There is definitely lots available. Student health and wellness, I encourage you again to check out the calendar of events for meditation times, yoga times, workshops, and everything else that we're offering. Follow us at Lakehead Life. We always post about anything that's upcoming and any events that we're running, workshops, anything like that. And then our website as well has lots of information. And if you go to the wellness section, it has a lot of information about health and wellness topics that are specific to the post-secondary student population. And we do lots of articles on health topics and things like that. So have a look at that. If you are looking for some off-campus resources, again, you can find all this information on our website. But Good to Talk is a good resource, 24/7 post-secondary helpline. You can talk to someone about anything that's bothering you any time of the day. realcampus.ca, if you have opted to stay in the LUSU Extended Healthcare Plan, definitely go to realcampus.ca and see what's available because they have lots and lots of different resources. Bounce Back Ontario is a free program that's used to treat anxiety and depression using telephone coaching. And again, if those thinking traps and that kind of thing really resonated for you, this might be a program that would be super helpful because it uses the cognitive behavioral therapy approach, which does a lot of work around shifting the way we think about things in order to change the way we feel about them. Wellness Together Canada is another great resource. Check that out. Together All is an online peer support community. And then Thunder Bay Crisis Response is 24/7 local crisis line. And again, that's someone who's actually going to be in Thunder Bay. Most communities do have a crisis number. So I always encourage students, find out what the crisis number is in the community you're located in. And then if you ever need it or a friend ever needs it, you have it readily accessible.